It's Friday, Feedback Friday, the feedbackiest day of the week. It's Feedback Friday. Oh, this trade-off. Weather's nice, so I want to open up the windows, but opening up the windows means it's okay. It's on video. You don't have to worry that it's coronavirus. It's Feedback Friday, and first I'll do the I'll do the boss fight update first, then I'll do the Patreon plug. Boss fight is getting extremely close to being done. If this had been Lady Bits, I would have pushed it out by now. But the production values in boss fight are a good 4 times Lady Bits. Also, I'm learning how to do captioning. And so all that's left, I've got list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 fixes where there were little mistakes here and there. But I have to type the credits, which I've been procrastinating on because I hate typing credits. I hate doing crawls. But once it's done, it's done. And the captioning has to be done. And I have never done captioning before, and that's why I haven't set a release date for boss fight yet. If the captioning goes swimmingly, it'll be out next week. If it doesn't, it might take a bit more time. These delays will not happen going forward because once I learn how to do it, I've learned how to do it. I have just never done a proper closed captioning track before I've embedded it. But I want people to have the ability to turn it on and off and still be accessible. So I'm learning, and I've got a few people helping me, but I got to learn how to do it. So that's what's going on with that. But there will be a backer and patron launch party before it goes live to the public. I think I'll try the premiere feature on the day it comes out, but there will be a little like online kind of Zoom party for the people who backed it and the people who helped participate it. We're gonna have, I don't know what we're gonna call them, the chat troll players or something like that, the people that helped out with the in character chatting for the first episode. But if you want to be a part of this stuff, help support this channel, become a monthly patron, patreon.com/Leanna K. We're probably gonna make the Zoom thing like once boss fights clicking along and I'm into a rhythm, we're gonna make the Zoom parties a regular like patron thing, because it worked out well. It was like, I don't know, there were about 20, like 24 people, and it was fun. Like people were showing their toys and stuff like that. So this is Feedback Friday, and the feedback from Monday's video was, what do you want me to talk about for the rest of the week? So that's covered. I don't have to talk about that anymore. But it kind of worked. I mean, people were interested in what I talked about the last 2 days. The Mortal Kombat thing was just mine because Mortal Kombat has pissed me off so badly. It's amazing how quickly a game franchise can change in your estimation. I went the positive way with the Witcher franchise. I was not big on the second game, to put it lightly. In some ways, I think I kind of like the first game better. But the second game didn't like. It felt all over the place and bizarre, and there was a memory leak in it that made it really unpleasant to play on my PC. And then Witcher 3 came out, and I'm like, oh my god, this game is so good. And Mortal Kombat's gone the other way. It went from a franchise I bought religiously and had a blast with it to this isn't fun anymore. And so I'll talk about the Mortal Kombat one, then I'll talk about the Twitch Safety Council one. Because I think we'll get through the Mortal Kombat one pretty quickly. Most people, just had a laugh at it, which is what it was intended to do. A couple people were like, oh, I think she looks good. Like, okay, context, okay? If they hadn't gone on the more realistic, more respectful angle, I'd have no beef, okay? I'd still hate Kitana's costume. One person said the lines look weird, and I can't explain why. It's because of the way they wrap around her leg. That's a crappy seam to do. I know because I did it on an old dance costume of mine where it was supposed to be like lions, so I had a wrap around one leg, like a seam like that, so it looked like a tail. But like it, especially when it's on both legs and when it's swooping in like that on a real body, not only does it make you look wider in the thigh than most women want to look. Thick is in now, so that's not so bad, but it can make you look bow-legged as well. It's just not like Bayonetta's costume is the one I use. That costume's sexy as anything, but you can tell it was designed by a woman because damn, the lines on that are clean and they're elegant and they're flattering, and you can see the zipper in the front of the original costume where she can get into it even though her clothes are magic. Those are the things, like, I personally think if you're gonna have sexy costumes in a game, you don't have to have a female artist, but you've got to have some women involved in the process that can go, okay, that's stupid in a good way versus that bugs the fuck out of me and here's why. It's just one of those things where if you claim to be respectful to women, I will say it again, don't have things in your game that insult our intelligence. And a couple people pointed out that in trying to make the game less sexist, in a lot of ways they made the game more sexist. I actually have that point in my college lectures. So the interesting thing is a few people pushed back on me. Either, I don't care, I like it, she looks hot when she whoops Shao Kahn. Point missed. Expected, Mortal Kombat. But other people, and I'm really surprised that this is the hill some people want to die on. Because you want to check me on Mortal Kombat lore, you better not be so glaringly difficult to defend your view. Because they said, well, she's dead in the game. That's why Melina's not in the game. How many Mortal Kombat characters have died and come back? Answer? Practically all of them. The minute they had like Quan Chi and his Revenant stuff, and then they started changing time and all that stuff, like, it's all open, like that is no excuse because, Jax died. And that's why Jax was so traumatized in Mortal Kombat, right? Because he was dead and then he was a Revenant and oh God, right? And Sindel was dead. She back. It's just like, this is a game where there is like a god who controls time and can bring back anyone they want by rewriting time. And you're going to argue, oh no, they put her in the game because they were being true to the lore. Like, one of the big problems with Mortal Kombat 11 is that its lore is not internally consistent. Like, again, this is dumb, I love it, this is dumb, it insults my intelligence, are actually quite easy to distinguish. Like, you can have smart, stupid. The Saints Row games, especially Saints Row 3 and 4. Smart, stupid, right? Those games are deliberately dumb as fuck. But they take you along. There's nothing that really breaks the reality of the whole thing. But with, Mortal Kombat, you've got Jax completely changing the flow of human history, and strangely, he doesn't disappear, and his wife doesn't disappear, and his daughter doesn't disappear, though they're kind of different versions of themselves, but his own daughter, Jackie, changes one thing about history, and she disappears in a butterfly effect. And the thing she changed in history happened after one of the things Jax changed, because he still has his arms, like his human arms, which makes him less cool. But, like, those are the sorts of internal inconsistencies. Like, are we supposed to believe that Jax is just that much better at manipulating time than his daughter? There's absolutely no reason why that would be so. You know? So either we're supposed to believe that Jackie Briggs is just totally incompetent, or they just right hand not know what the other left hand is doing, and they went for this sort of ramped up false drama where, and it's not even different timelines, right? It's the way their non-linear time concept works. And this is why time travel tends to be a big pet peeve in science fiction for a lot of people, because it's just so easy to break. A lot of people like, just don't do it, you'll never do it right. Personally, I think something like Doctor Who that has a very kind of loosey-goosey, timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly, or wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey. I always get that backwards. But you know, we sort of accept that Doctor Who is sort of a loose thing, and sometimes it's very important, and a lot of the times it's very much not, and that's just the way the show is. And I was like, all right, fine, whatever. It's consistently inconsistent. We don't expect that. And so most people are fine with it. You do get some people who are like kvetchy. Then you get Star Trek, where if you change anything, purists complain. Because, I'm going to defend like Star Trek fans. Because the thing about Star Trek is that it's never been the massive money-making dominant cultural phenomenon that Star Wars was. You know, but Star Trek was much more hard sci-fi, as much as you can call TV science fiction hard sci-fi, but it had that more science fiction element to it as opposed to the space opera element. And now Star Trek, ever since the J.J. Abrams films, possibly earlier, but certainly I noticed it then, Star Trek is trying to do the space opera thing where it's just like pew pew lasers and sweeping emotional moments, and the science fiction elements are getting really sloppy. And I can understand why some people would have issues with that, because that is what made Star Trek sort of distinct. If you want that, now you watch The Expanse. And unfortunately, this is what happens with sci-fi and fandom. they sort of shift and a new thing comes in to fill that niche. And so, I mean, I'm much more likely to go and play the classic games like Mortal Kombat 2, Mortal Kombat 3, those games, than I am to play Mortal Kombat 11 at this point. Because it's just like, first of all, I admit that the more photorealistic fatalities are not my favorite thing. I think they have to dial back on the cartoonish gore because it would be really gross. Whereas, you know, when it was just kind of pixels and it sort of painted over motion capture, you could go more out there because there wasn't enough resolution. But I'm glad they brought the friendships back. I'm glad they brought the silly stuff back. I love that about Mortal Kombat 3. Because it gave me the ability to do that final finishing move without it constantly being like blood and guts violent. It gave me an option. But it's just gotten too, like, when you've cultivated a fan base that gets so serious about, no, she was dead, needs a continuity, when everybody's died and come back. Mortal Kombat has like soap opera deaths. There's something really wrong with your IP and your community and your brand. And that is not the fault of the fans, because I've watched the marketing. There is so much pointless hype with the marketing. Like when they announced Ronda Rousey as, you know, Sonya Blade, it's like, I don't get this. And then I wait, I do get this. They're trying to pull in casuals who are kind of aware of Mortal Kombat, but aren't into it, and they're trying to pull in with a recognizable name. Now, the problem is anybody that's seen any movie Ronda Rousey's been in is she's not the greatest actor. So why they take like Sonya, from the beginning, Sonya. You don't need any star power for Sonya because she's Sonya Blade. She predates Ronda Rousey. She inspired Ronda Rousey. And I think they were a little late on that one. I think Ronda Rousey... the game sold very, very, very well. The hype machine worked. And I think maybe some of the cover up the boobies was because Warner Brothers had high expectations for the sales of the game and they wanted to promote it in things like, wrestling circles, which have gotten kind of oddly tame of late too. I don't know. I'm starting to feel out of touch about things, but the seriousness with which they make everything in that franchise has caused some issues that I think long term are going to bleed players into game franchises that are just more lighthearted about stuff. Fighting game communities tend to be quite intense, but I've found just personally that the Street Fighter community and Soul Calibur's kind of declined, but Dead or Alive and stuff like that, it's a different kind of intensity. They're really big on like balance, and when they shift the balance on characters, they like meticulously go through and figure out like the tiers and stuff like that. They're not like, let's attack somebody for having an opinion that's different than mine and act like a jackass doing it. And I don't know if that's because Mortal Kombat is one of the few fighting games that sort of originated in the US that are still going, or if it's just something about the particular brand. I think it does have something to do with the sort of westernization of it. There's a different relationship that we have with media here in the Americas than they do over in Japan. There's the hardcore fans of Japan, don't get me wrong, but it's like they're less serious about taking their media seriously, if that makes any sense. So let's move on to the Twitch Safety Advisory Council feedback. And I enjoyed this was my favorite comment section I like it when people find what I do funny and entertaining, and that's great, and I appreciate the support on the Mortal Kombat stuff, especially because of past bad experiences. But with the Twitch one, I liked the diversity of opinion in the comments. I liked the back and forth. I liked that people brought up different opinions. I'm really amazed at how the comments, Ferociously Stuff's comments on voice chat hit a nerve with people. I admit I did not. She's entitled to her opinion. I don't get that opinion. Maybe it's a lived experience thing. I don't know. But like for me, voice chat's annoying because I put up on Twitter that I didn't know that, voice chat benefited white cisgender dudes. I guess they assume straight as well. But I thought voice chat benefited girls who were sort of grifters who like were trying to get guys to buy them stuff and often succeeded. Like that's what I saw most on voice chat. But like this was kind of back in the Ventrilo World of Warcraft kind of days. Maybe it's evolved. I don't entirely think so. Like I've seen what goes on Twitch. I've seen, like, okay, there is an element of commodification of performance, okay? Any platform where you're basically working for tips is like that. And yes, okay, there's raw views and the number of views and the advertising and all that stuff, but it's those cheers, right, that make Twitch monetization far superior to YouTube. And with that sort of interaction does come sort of a more rough and tumble Wild West environment. And I talked about this before. There's only so much you can do to alter the fact that that's just sort of an innate part of the experience when anybody can come in and watch you. I mean, you need registration to comment and all that stuff. That certainly helps. But, you know, it's not tied to anything real. If you don't have a channel yourself, you can just like get banned and then take out a new account and be right back in there. That's kind of the annoying part of the internet in general. But, you know, quite a few people kind of agreed that this was sort of a way of a distraction, a way to draw fire. And the reason I left this to last is I have something of a theory about, and I admit it's a little bit of a conspiratorial hypothesis. I'm saying that in advance. And this goes back to my big complaint I had with Steam back in the day. When Steam was a game publisher and Steam was also a game developer, like Valve was a game developer. It's an inherent conflict of interest when you control the distribution and then you have products within that distribution model. Every time that has happened, the platform gives preferential treatment to their own products. Remember those you didn't ask for it, pushed downloads of the Left 4 Dead 2 demo? Yeah. Gee, wonder why they did that? Oh, right. That's a Valve game. Well, Amazon is about to step into the same, well, they are in the same waters now. A couple days after that Safety Advisory Council news broke, Crucible comes out. And of course, Amazon owns Twitch. Amazon owns Crucible. This is a conflict of interest. And the big question is, are they going to give preferential treatment to Crucible streamers over, you know, Fortnite or League of Legends streamers? Because let's face it, these sorts of games, they drive a lot of viewership on Twitch. And so the fact that Amazon has sort of developed their own thing to go head to head, and yes, Epic Games is also now a publisher and a distributor through the Epic Games Store. They have the same conflict of interest via Fortnite. But Fortnite became a thing before the Epic Games Store did. So Fortnite isn't the problem. Their next big venture is going to be a problem. You know, if the Epic Games Store catches on, and I suspect it will, just because they're doing so many, you know, monetary incentives for people to publish their games on their platform first. I haven't downloaded it. People have told me it's pretty jank and it's missing a lot of features, but I mean, just wait. It's coming. It's going to be, I think it's going to be a real competitor to Steam, and it's not bad for Steam to have real competition because Steam has done some shady stuff. Like I said, conflict of interest there. But, you know, these timed exclusives, especially the rate that they're happening, I understand are frustrating to a lot of people. There's been nothing where it's really affected me on PC. I after my experiences with Nier Automata, oh man, I'm going back to any major game that isn't like Doom or ones I know are like PC native experiences. I'm buying on console because I've had nothing but troubleshooting problems with that game. Frame rate issues up the wazoo. Very disappointing in a game that came out in 2017. Like, it should be fixed by now. And, you know, I guess I installed the far mod, and it made some things better and some things worse. But enough about that. That's an aside. So one could argue that this safety advisory committee is, and putting somebody controversial on it could be a way to draw the complainers away from the inherent conflict of interest with Twitch and Crucible. I saw it, which is why I'm saying it. I don't think that's it, but I can't rule out that it could be. I have no evidence that it is. I'm just pointing out that was an interesting coincidence. Now, I suspect the reasons are more simple. I suspect that a lot of Twitch streamers just said no to being on that committee. And so they worked their way down. And I also think they, were going for optics and didn't think it through. Because Twitch, I don't know, Twitch has a blind spot regarding popular or controversial streamers who aren't male. And I'm not sure why. I don't know what their thinking is, but like I said, the alinity issues are there. Some of the stuff that Ferociously Steph says has been shocking, and it's sort of undeniable that multiple guys on Twitch have gotten in trouble for comparative statements and behaviors. And this is why I constantly push the idea of benevolent sexism. Not my term. I just think it's a good one to understand this stuff and how this stuff is a race to the bottom. You have to enforce your community standards, your rules, and your guidelines equally. As long as it's really obvious that you are going easier on one group than another, you're basically telegraphing that you don't think that group you're going easy on is fully accountable for their own behavior. And that makes them appear less competent, less accountable, less a lot of things than people who are subject to the entirety of the rules and regulations and their enforcement. There's no way around it, but it's like, oh, but they get away with it. But do they? They draw so much hate for, and I mean like hate, like drinking the haterade, not like hate speech. There's so much like salt flung at them because they got a pass. In a lot of ways, it's worse, right? If you take your lumps and get it over with, that's one thing. People can kind of respect that. Like, all right, you made a mistake. We've all done it. But if you seem to be openly evading the rules and everybody's seen you do it, it affects your credibility. And it affects your reputation online. And in gaming circles and in online in general, reputation is everything, especially when it comes to, ironically enough, playing by the rules. Even troll groups have their own rules. They're hard for outsiders to understand, but they exist. So, I mean, this is not helping anyone long term, and the people who point this out are 100% right. I guess I've been on the shitty end of that stick so many times, I cannot let it bother me anymore. It happens. That's life. It's a Severus Snape thing. Life's not fair. Your blessed father taught me that. That whole thing. That's the reality. And we should complain. We should point out the problems with that unfairness, but we can't let it consume us, because it will, because there's so much unfairness in this world. And if you let it devour you, the people being unfair win. So I'll leave it there. Hope you found that feedback helpful. Glad you guys, or interesting. Glad you guys got a laugh out of the Mortal Kombat rant. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron. Patreon.com/LeannaK. Remember, boss fight coming soon.